Noticing whether your breath is deep or shallow. Hi, Char. Noticing where in the body the breath is traveling to. So whether your breath is quite high up around your shoulders, or whether your breath is traveling deeper down towards your lower ribs or your belly. And maybe listening to the sound of that breath. So noticing that sort of airy sound in the back of the throat with every breath that comes in and every breath that goes out. So in yoga, it's known as the Ujjayi breath, that sound of the breath. And listening to that sound, and you might find that as you kind of tune in with that airy sound of your incoming and outgoing breath, you might find that it naturally just becomes a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, and that the sound becomes a little bit more pronounced. And if you find that in trying to make that sound a bit more pronounced, then you feel that you're kind of building tension around your jaw or around your neck or your throat, then just ease off a little bit. So trying to keep the face relaxed, but thinking about maintaining or getting some element of control over this breath. And as you listen to that sound of the breath, also noticing, trying to make that sound smooth and even. Trying to make that breath nice and smooth and even, every incoming and outgoing breath. Perhaps working on lengthening and deepening that breath a little bit. And also directing the breath to wherever it's needed. So you may find that if you've woken up with a bit of a stiff lower back or hips today, or a bit of a stiff neck or shoulders, then see if you can direct your breath into those areas, just with your awareness. So there's lots of interesting old yoga texts. One of the most interesting is the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which means the little light on yoga. And it says in the Pradipika, where the mind goes, the prana flows. And it's one of our teacher, Duncan, it's one of his favorite sayings, if anyone knows Duncan Hewlin. So just by imagining that breath coming in through the nose and traveling to wherever you need it, whether it's in your neck, whether it's in your shoulders, whether it's in your lower back or your hips, wherever it is that you feel you need a little bit of light, a little bit of energy. Imagining your breath traveling to that place where the mind goes, the prana flows. Okay, so we're going to take a deep inhale now, and as you take that deep inhale, reaching your arms up over your head, extending your legs out along the floor, giving the whole body a good stretch. Left side, right side, both sides together, maybe pointing your toes, maybe pushing your heels away. And then from there, we're going to bring the right knee in towards you. We're going to interlink the fingers, maybe over the knee, maybe under the knee, if that knee doesn't need to be compressed in any way, and drawing that leg towards you just a little bit. And consider for a moment what your shoulders are doing while you're here. So try to make sure that your shoulders aren't creating tension, that your shoulders are kind of back against the floor as much as possible. That your breath is still moving freely and easily. If you want to continue with the Ujjayi breath for the moment while we're lying down, you're welcome to do so. If you feel that it's easier just to let that breath go and come back to your normal, natural breath, that's absolutely fine as well. And again, just feeling your way into this gentle stretch to begin with. So maybe moving it around a little bit, maybe from side to side, maybe moving in and out of that stretch in a way that is not bouncing, but just kind of easing into and easing out of. Maybe using the breath as well. So the exhale creates a bit of space as the belly button draws back, and you might be able to move into that space on the exhale. Maybe as you inhale, just easing off a little bit. And then we're going to go the other way today. So James and I were talking about this over breakfast. This is it's called an isotonic stretch, isometric, I can't remember. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is you're going to bring your right hand against the top of that knee, and you're pushing the knee away at the same time as trying to push your knee back towards you. So your knee's coming in the direction towards your shoulders and your head, and with your right hand, you're trying to push it away. So you're creating tension in your hip. And then we're going to ease that tension off with your hands on your knee and take that knee around in circles. That's it. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to do it with the breath this time. So we're going to take a deep breath in, and then we're going to hold that breath in as you push the knee away, and as you push your knee towards you, push, 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 and then easing off, exhale, taking that knee around in circles. So you get this lovely combination of strengthening the muscles, tightening the muscles up, and then consciously releasing. And this is really useful for when these muscles deep inside the hip get quite tense. So if you've been sitting for long periods, is a kind of classic when this happens, then sometimes it's really hard just to release those muscles. What you actually need to do is make sure that they're engaged, consciously engaged, and then consciously release. So we're going to do it again. Take a deep inhale, hold that breath in, push the knee away, push the knee towards, push, push, push. And then release, exhale, as you take that knee around and release those muscles. So we can do this a couple more times just to make sure those muscles are engaging and then releasing. So take a deep inhale, hold that breath in as you push the knee away. And then releasing. Exhale. And last time, because I've lost count, take a deep inhale. Push that knee away, pushing the knee towards. Tensing up. And then release. Exhale. Taking that knee around in circles. And we're going to do slightly longer circles this time. So staying with the circles. And then at some point, we'll change the direction of those circles and go back the other way. And again, noticing anything that might arise within those circles, whether they're big circles or small circles. whether there's any popping, clicking, anything like that that goes on. And then just to finish it off, we're going to give that right knee a gentle squeeze in. So again, either over the knee or under the knee. Exhale, drawing that leg in nice and close. And then we're going to release that right leg, extend it out along the floor. Take your arms up over your head, giving the whole body a good stretch, and particularly lengthening that right side. So seeing how long that right leg can be now. And then easing off. So we'll bring the left knee in now. And again, so either over the knee or under the knee. Starting off with just kind of easing into this deep piriformis stretch. Kind of easing into, easing off of, maybe moving a little bit from side to side. Just exploring around inside the hip there. Maybe with the breath, so the exhale draws that leg in a little bit closer, the inhale perhaps to release. So it's like we're squeezing and we're compressing those muscles deep inside the hip. And then from there, we're going to release them. Release that leg, and we're going to go the other way. So the left hand on the left knee, and again it's this tension, so you're trying to push your left knee towards you at the same time, stopping it with your left hand. So there's tension between your knee and your hand. We're going to inhale, push, push, push. And then releasing, taking that knee around in circles. So this is, it's part of our pelvic realignment sequence that we tend to do a little bit of every week. We're going to take a deep inhale, hold that breath in as you push, push, push. And then exhale and release, taking that left leg around. So we tend to do a little bit of anything that we do lying down generally is part of a pelvic realignment sequence. And again, so inhale, hold that breath in as you push your knee away. Engaging those muscles deep inside the hip, and then release, exhale, taking that knee around in circles. And again, so inhale deeply. Hold that breath in as you push, creating tension, engaging those muscles in the hip and the leg. And then release, taking it around in circles. And one last time, take a deep inhale, pushing the knee away, pushing the knee towards, holding that breath in. And then to release, going around in circles. And we're going to stay with the circles now for a little bit. So circling around in one direction. And circling around in the other direction. At some point, you can change that direction, go back the other way. You can change the size and the scope of those circles. Make them bigger or smaller, depending on how it feels. And then we'll bring that leg in for one more gentle squeeze. And then releasing that left leg, taking your arms up over your head, stretch the legs out along the floor, giving the whole body lengthen. Lengthening stretch, left side, right side, both sides together.
Keeping your arms up over your head, we're going to bend the knees and bring the feet flat onto the floor again. And we're going to lengthen those muscles the other way by pushing into the feet, lifting the hips off the floor, keeping the arms up over the head, lifting the hips nice and high. So extending the front of the hips now. And then slowly easing your way down. So from the neck to the tailbone, rolling the spine down, trying to keep the arms up over the head. If you need to bend your elbows a little bit to keep the arms comfortably over the head, then you can do, that's fine. Easing your way back down. We can do that one more time. So pushing into the feet, lifting the hips up. So focusing on that stretch and that lengthen over the front of the hip. And then easing down again. Easing down again. Perfect. Okay, so from here, let's bring both the knees towards you and we're going to rock from side to side. Rocking from side to side and then rolling over onto one side or the other. And up into a seated position. So we'll come up into a seated position with the legs out in front. And you can lean back on your hands here if your wrists are comfortable to do so. Otherwise you can make fists or you can be unsupported just with your hands on your knees if you're comfortable and able to do that. So looking at the feet and spreading the toes as wide as they can go. Seeing if you can see a bit of space between each of the toes. Feel a little bit of space opening up between all the little bones in the feet. Try not to get cramped. And then closing the toes in. And then stretching and opening again. And closing the toes in. Scrunching the toes in. And opening and releasing. So again, looking for a little bit of space. Scrunching up. Opening. Looking for a little bit of space maybe between the little toe and the one next to it. Scrunching up. And then opening up and looking for a little bit of space between the third and the fourth toe. And then scrunching up. Opening, stretching open, seeing if you can find a bit of space between the second and the third toe. Mine don't open at all. And then scrunching up again. And then seeing if you can find a bit of space between the big toe and the second toe. And then scrunching up. So opening, just releasing the feet now, relaxing the toes. We'll take the feet around in circles. And at some point, again, we'll change the direction of those circles and go back the other way. That's it. And then coming back to center, just giving the knees a bit of a bounce. So we're going to bring the right leg in. Give that right knee a gentle squeeze. Again, if the knee doesn't need any pressure, you can always interlink the fingers underneath the knee as you draw that knee in and lift up through the spine. And then we're going to release that right leg, bring the other leg in. So drawing the left leg in, a little lift up through the spine, and then releasing that left leg away. Same again. So the right leg coming in, squeeze and lift, and then release. And the other leg coming in, drawing the leg in, lifting up, maybe lifting up the pelvic floor as well. And then release. We'll do one more time on either side. So the right leg coming in, lifting from the pelvic floor all the way up to the top of the head, and releasing. And then the other leg coming in, lift, and release. So we're going to bring the right leg in this time. And we're going to take hold of that right foot in the left hand. So the left hand is going to come underneath the sole of that right foot. With your right hand, just easing that right knee away from you just a little bit and starting to move the leg from side to side. A little rocking from side to side. Again, seeing what's going on in this right hip. Seeing if you can take it out to the side. And then seeing how far you can take it across. And then rocking from side to side. And coming back to center, letting go of that right foot. Bring it back into alignment. Give it a little squeeze and then letting go of that right leg. We'll bring the other leg in. So the left leg coming in. So reaching your right hand underneath the sole of that left foot. Easing that left knee gently away from you and rocking from side to side. And once you've got a bit of movement going on there, you can start to experiment and see how far you can take it in one direction, seeing how that feels. And then how far you can take it in the other direction, seeing how that feels. And then again, moving from side to side. Coming back to center. We'll let go of that left foot. Again, straighten up from the knee to the heel. Give it a gentle squeeze and then letting go of that left leg. Bending both the knees, bringing the feet flat onto the floor and the feet at least hip width apart or thereabouts. And with your hands on your knees, as you inhale, lifting the center of the chest, looking up. And as you exhale, rolling back, chin to the chest. Right back onto the tailbone, inhaling, coming forwards, lifting up, looking up, exhaling, rolling back. And again, the scope, the scale, the amount of movement is entirely up to you, your spine, your hips and your shoulders and your neck. You might find that you want to make this movement quite small and subtle, particularly if you've got a few aches and pains. If you, like me, got a little carried away with the gardening yesterday, or had to sleep in the top bunk of the bunk beds last night. Less likely, probably, to be fair. So experimenting. Being conscious, close your eyes. Noticing where the movement is, where the movement is not, where there is any tension. If you find bits of tension here and there, maybe just working around those bits of tension. And then coming back up so that you're sitting up nice and tall. Roll your shoulders back and down. We'll bring the soles of the feet together. The knees out to the sides. And with your hands on your knees, starting to circle around. Big circles or small circles. Being sensitive to what's going on with you in your body. That's it. So whether it's kind of the hips that you want to focus on, whether it's the lower back, whether it's further up with the shoulders and the neck, you can circle around with the shoulders and the neck. You can do a little bit of everything, or you can focus on one particular area. Again, it does help. If you can close your eyes, then you can really focus on what's going on inside and be more sensitive to your sensations as they are. And at some point when you feel the time is right for you, you can change the direction of those circles and go back the other way. And then making your way back up so that you're sitting up nice and tall. So we're going to come over into our all fours position now. So perhaps bringing the knees together and just easing your way over onto all fours, knowing that if you need a bit of extra padding underneath your knees, then perhaps grabbing a blanket or something like that, or double folding your mat if you need to. Wrist-wise, if you're not comfortable having your wrists at this angle, you can always come onto your knuckles and your fists, having a less acute angle for your wrist. Or if that doesn't work either, you can come down onto your forearms and your elbows. So with the knees about hip width apart and the hands about shoulder width apart, we're going to circle around here as well. So as if you've got a pencil in your belly button and you're drawing a circle on the center of your mat. Again, close your eyes, be sensitive to all of the varying sensations that arise. You can make big circles, you can make small circles, you can do figure of eights, oval type circles, squares, triangles, whatever works with you and your hips and your shoulders and your neck, or your knees, or your wrists, and at some point, changing the direction of those circles, changing the direction of the circles and going back the other way. Poppy knees, clicking hips. It's all good. So we're going to make our way back to a kind of central neutral position now, bringing the knees together. So with the knees together, taking your right leg back behind you, toes on the floor, extending back into that heel. So giving the toes a really good squiz. Try and get all of the toes in contact with the floor. Give the foot a bit of a stretch, the back of that leg. And then from there, rolling over onto the top of the foot, the front of the toenails, top of the toenails, front of the foot, and from the little toe to the big toe. From the little toe to the big toe. So this is one of our magical sciatica movements. So if you have sciatica on this right side, if you've got that kind of feeling of tension or kind of shooting nerve weirdnesses, maybe tingling toes, maybe back pain, could be any of those kind of things. Sciatica works in lots of mysterious ways. Rolling into that little toe side of that foot so that you feel that the lower back around the sacrum, that right side of the lower back, is just slightly moving away from the center line. You've got a little bit more space around the tailbone on that right side particularly. And again, the invitation is always there to experiment and explore this kind of interesting movement. It's quite an interesting movement for that right hip, I always think. And then from there, finding again that kind of midpoint, lifting that right leg off of the floor and extending it back behind you. We'll bend the knee, bringing the heel towards the buttock and then taking that knee around in circles. So again, whether these circles are quite small circles, staying close to the ground, or whether they're big circles going all the way around, is entirely up to you. At some point, again, change the direction of those circles and we'll come back the other way. And then we're going to step that right foot forwards to the outside of the right hand. So you might be able to just step it forwards. You might take it really wide out to the side. You might step it forward in little increments and then pick it up and make sure that it's right next to your right hand, not just behind it there somewhere, but actually really quite close. Coming onto the fingertips here just to give the wrists a bit of a break. And we're rocking forwards and backwards. So again, it might just be a matter of 10 degrees forwards and backwards, little tiny movements. certainly to begin with. You might find that that movement becomes a little bit bigger, a little bit more comfortable. You might find that you want to drop forwards into the hips, the inner thighs. You might find that you want to extend back and lengthen the back of that right leg and the hamstring and have a bit of an explore. There you can always move your hips a little bit from side to side. You can work your way around in circles if circles works for you. And then at some point, we're going to find that midpoint. So the knee is over the heel, bringing the right forearm up onto that thigh, and we'll come up and around with the left arm. So the left arm's making backwards moving circles. Inhaling as that left arm lifts up and exhaling as it comes down and around. And then from there, we're going to bring that left hand back onto the mat, reaching the right hand up towards the ceiling. So coming into our twist here. So lots of options. Let's take the palm of this right hand to face forwards, the short end of the mat, and reach that right arm across. Variation number one. If that is not comfortable for your shoulder, you can keep your arm up in the air, or you can even drop it down behind your back. Not really in front of, but behind your back, up in the air, or up over the head. If you wish to, you can tuck your back toes under and lift off that back knee. Making sure that the hips don't fly up into the air at the same time, keeping the hips fairly low. You can either look up towards your right middle finger, or you can look straight ahead, or you can look down towards your left hand. Whatever is most comfortable for your neck. And then from there, let's take another couple of deep breaths because that feels good today. We'll bring that right hand back down onto the mat. You can bring your left knee back down. We'll step that right leg back to where it came from. And we'll take the left leg back, toes on the floor. Give the toes a really good squidge and extend back into that heel. So try and get all of your toes tucked under, giving the sole of the foot a good stretch. And then from there, rolling onto the front of the foot, the front of the toes. And again, little toe to big toe. So little toe to big toe. So if you don't suffer from sciatica, this might not make a huge amount of sense to you, but if you do, you'll know what I mean. So again, if you do have sciatica on that left side, dropping into the little toe side of that left foot, creating a little bit more space around the left side of the sacrum, the lower back, the left side of the tail. Maybe staying there if you want to stay there, if that feels really nice, if it's a good release, you can stay there. If you want to continue rolling into the big toe and the little toe, then you can do that as well. And then at some point we'll come back to center and lift that left leg up. So the toes are pointing down towards the floor. The heel extending back away from you. And then from there, we'll bend the knee, bring the heel towards the left buttock and take that knee around in circles. So the size of the circles is entirely up to you. You might want to keep it fairly low, quite small circles. You might feel that those circles are going to be much bigger, depending on your hips, your lower back, general mobility and muscle tension as it is today. And we'll at some point change the direction of those circles. Come back the other way. And then from there, stepping that left foot forwards to the outside of the left hand. Any which way. Coming onto the fingertips to give the wrists a bit of a break and starting to move forwards and backwards. So I would always suggest starting with quite small movements and just seeing how that goes. And then gradually, potentially, possibly making those movements a little bit bigger if that feels like an appropriate thing to do. And if you want to drop into any of these kind of placements, whether you want to come forwards, move the hips a little bit, whether you want to take it right back and explore that left hamstring is entirely up to you. If you want to keep moving or if you want to be more static, is entirely up to you. And then coming back to our neutral position. So the knee is over the heel. We're going to bring the left forearm up onto that thigh and the right arm is going in backwards moving circles. So inhaling as that arm lifts up and exhaling as it comes down and around. So backwards moving circles, the right arm. Inhaling as it lifts up, exhaling as it comes down and around. And then from there, we'll bring that right hand back down onto the mat. We're going to come into our twist. So lifting the left shoulder up and the left arm up. So already kind of starting to feel into this twist. If your arm is not comfortable, if your shoulder's not comfortable being up in the air, you can have your hand down behind your back. If that's comfortable there, you can turn the palm of the hand towards the short end of the mat and reach across, lengthening, lengthening, lengthening all underneath the armpit through to the tips of the fingers. And if you choose to, you have the option of tucking under your back toes and lifting off that right knee. And once you're there, wherever you are, taking a few nice deep breaths, controlled, slow breaths. And then from there, we're going to bring that left hand back down onto the mat. We'll bring the right knee back down as well and stepping that left foot, left leg back to where it came from. We're going to make our way up to stand quite slowly and carefully. So tucking all of the toes under, lifting the knees off a little bit to eventually make your way up towards your downward facing dog. So you might want to do this slowly in little increments, just lifting the knees off and then placing the knees back down. You might want to come right up into your downward dog and just hang out there for a moment. So however you want to find your way into your downward facing dog, making sure that once you're there, your knees can be bent, but your spine wants to be straight. So if you can straighten your legs at the same time as straightening your spine, that's fine. But if it's easier to keep your knees bent, then keep your knees bent. You might want to walk your feet on the spot, pushing or bending one knee rather, and then bending the other knee. You might find that this is all a bit too much for you today and you'd much rather be on your knees and sitting back in child's pose until we actually get around to being more upright. So taking some time either in your downward dog or in your child's pose. And then we're going to come up to stand. So we're going to walk the feet towards the hands and the hands back towards the feet. Nice and slow, nice and steady. Until you come into this standing forward fold. So standing forward fold or inverted postures are not really recommended if you have any blood pressure issues or heart issues, in which case, or if you're prone to kind of dizziness and stuff like that, in which case you want to bend your knees and look forwards. Otherwise, if you're comfortable to hang in your forward bend, then let your head hang, let your arms hang. Have a little look at your feet. Make sure that your feet are facing forwards like train tracks. And then from there, we're going to bend the knees. And as you bend the knees, push the earth away as you come all the way up to stand. So whether you're coming up with a straight back if you've had any spinal injuries, or whether you want to roll up one vertebra at a time, push into the feet to come up. Inhaling as your head comes up last, and once you're up, rolling the shoulders back and down. There we go. Okay, so once we're up, we're going to reach the arms up over the head. So inhale, taking the arms up over the head, interlinking the fingers there. Push the palms up towards the ceiling. So lengthening everything upwards here. We're going to lift the heels off the floor, coming up onto tiptoes. And then coming back down, heels down, keep the arms up, heels down. And again, we're going to rock forwards onto the tiptoes, lifting the heels off. If you're struggling with your balance, bend your knees a little bit so you're engaging the muscles of your calves and your thighs to help. Then we'll bring the heels down again. Do that one more time. So coming up onto tippy toes. And then bringing the heels down again. So taking your hands now behind your head. So you're cradling the base of your skull in your hands. Taking the elbows nice and wide. So this is our inhale position, looking up slightly. And as you exhale, we're going to bring the elbows together, the chin towards the chest, but we're still standing up. We're not rolling forwards, still standing up. And then inhale to lift and open. So take the elbows wide, lift the center of the chest, looking up a little bit. Exhale, chin to chest, elbows towards each other. Inhale, lifting and opening. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, lifting and opening. And this time, chin to chest, elbows towards each other. We're going to hold it there and take a few nice deep breaths and visualizing that breath traveling down the back of the neck, between the shoulder blades. So again, you're not pulling with your hands. You don't need to pull with your hands or your arms. Just the weight of your hands and your arms is enough. Then we're going to inhale, lift the head up, take the elbows wide. And releasing the hands, you can bring your arms down by your sides. Roll your shoulders back again. Okay, so we're going to take a little side stretch before we go any further. We'll have the arms down by the sides. And we're going to drop the left shoulder down, reaching that left fingertips down towards the floor on the left side. And then coming back up. And reaching the right fingertips down towards the floor on that right side, dropping that right shoulder down. And then coming back up. We can do the same again. So left fingertips dropping down, left shoulder dropping down. Noticing which side you go further on. Let's come back up. And then down on the other side. And then coming back up. Okay, so from here we'll take the right arm, keeping that right arm straight in the elbow, the right arm reaches across the body. And we're going to hook it into place with the left arm. So the left arm comes underneath and draws that arm back a little bit. You can do all of these things sitting down if you have a foot issue, because I know somebody has. So all of this stuff can be done kneeling or sitting, or even sitting on a chair, as long as your spine is tall and straight, as long as you're not hunching at all. So from here, we're going to take a deep inhale, and then as you exhale, turn your head so that you're looking over your right shoulder, so you're looking away from your arms. And then on the inhale, we're going to turn the head back so that you're looking forwards again. So bringing your elbows to the center. If your elbows are still kind of hooked around each other, you might find that you can wrap your wrists around each other as well, palms of the hands facing towards. If you find that your elbows have kind of slipped out and away from each other, you can take hold of your shoulders. So either wrapping the elbows and the wrists around each other, it's difficult to see with the light behind me, isn't it? Sorry. Or taking hold of the shoulders and lifting the elbows up a little bit here, where again, we're going to take our side stretch here again. So lifting the elbows up, hands away from you if you've got your wrists wrapped as well. And we're going to take a side stretch down to one side, over to one side rather, and then back up to center and over to the other side. Then back up to center. So over to one side, back up to center, and over to the other side, and back up to center. Okay, so we're going to keep the arms where they are, and we're going to come into our balancing position today. So we're going to do the resting the heel on the knee one today. So for this, if you feel that your balance is wanting a little bit today, back yourself up against a wall. As you bend your knees a little bit, you can rest your bottom as if you're sort of sitting against the wall, and then you can bring your ankle up onto the opposite knee. I've got my right ankle over the left knee. So that left knee needs to be bent. So you need to bend that left knee to make a little shelf that you can then rest your ankle on without it slipping off. So if you've got your ankle over your left knee there, your right knee is drawing down towards the floor, and we're going to start to close everything down so your elbows are coming towards the sole of that right foot. Again, you can always use a wall, sit your bottom against a wall if you're struggling with your balance. Easing down towards the sole of that right foot. You might even find that your elbows come into contact with the sole of that foot, and you can give yourself a little massage, although that's distracting, frankly. So we're going to ease our way back up. So easing our way back up. And then releasing that right leg back down onto the floor. You can release your arms, take your arms up over your head. Interlink the fingers there, push the palms up towards the ceiling. And then releasing the hands, we'll bring the arms down in a big wide circle. Okay, left arm coming across the body. So keeping the left arm straight in the elbow, coming across the body, hooking the right arm underneath to draw it back in a little bit closer. So you're looking to lift that left shoulder blade away from the center line of the spine. Inhaling there, and as you exhale, turning your head so you're looking over your left shoulder, looking away from your arms. And then we'll look forwards again. So again, if you've managed to keep your elbows kind of hooked in there, you might find that you can wrap your wrists around each other as well to come into Garudasana arms. You might find that if your elbows are slipped away, or if your wrists or your hands just are not comfortable in that position, you can take hold your hands on your shoulders. And we're going to lift the elbows up a little bit, taking your hands away from you. So really moving both of the shoulder blades now away from the spine. So creating a nice space between the shoulder blades at the back of the body. Take a big deep breath into the back of the lungs, the back of the heart. And we're going to take a little side stretch. So over in one direction. And then back up to center. And over in the other direction. And back up to center. Again, if you find that you go over in one direction, you just want to stay there for a little bit longer, then do feel free to stay there for a little bit longer. Otherwise, we're coming up and over to the other side. And then coming back up. So keeping the arms as they are, and you can always change. If this just feels like it's getting too much, or you're getting pins and needles in your fingers or something like that, then you can always move your hand position to have your hands on your shoulders. If you need to back up against a wall and sit your bottom against a wall, then you can do that. So you need to bend that right knee, make a little shelf, and then the left foot is going to come up and over. So you're resting your left ankle over your right knee. And that left knee is dropping down towards the floor. So we often do this at the end of the practice when we're lying down. It's the added bonus of doing it standing up and in a balance. And then once you're there, we're going to start to possibly, if this is working out for you, whoop, and you're not falling over, you can start to close it all down, bringing your elbows towards the inside or the sole of that, left foot. So a wall is hopefully available. You could do it sitting in a chair. Actually, if you're sitting in a chair, this works really well. This is like lovely chair yoga. Breathing into the back of the lungs, so the shoulder blades are broad, the back of the body is opening up. And then easing your way back up. Easing your way back up to stand. Releasing that left leg back down onto the floor. You can release your arms. Take your arms up over your head. Interlink the fingers, push the palms up towards the ceiling. And then taking a big wide stroke down with both the arms. Perfect. Rolling the shoulders back and down. I haven't got a timekeeping device again today. Gosh, it's 11 o'clock already. Oh my God, how did that happen? Okay, we're going to come back down to the floor in that case. So we'll come to kind of the center. I was getting carried away. Center of the mat, feet facing forwards. We're going to come back down in the similar way to the way that we came up. So if you want to come down onto your all fours or into your child's pose, you can do. If you want to stay in your downward dog for a little bit longer, you can do. We're going to start by reaching the arms up And then coming all the way down, bend your knees as you come down if you need to. If you're not comfortable to come into a forward fold, you can always stop halfway. Otherwise, you can reach your hands forwards, trying to bring the palms of the hands flat to the floor. And then stepping the feet back into your downward facing dog. You can hang out in your downward facing dog for a little bit if you want to. You can walk your feet on the spot if that's a nice thing to do. If you just want to come back down to the floor, you can always bring your knees down and rest in a child's pose. Or you can be on all fours. Just take a moment for yourself to kind of assess what you want to do. Whether you want to be in downward dog, whether you want to be in child's pose, or whether you want to be halfway between the two on all fours. Whether you want to be moving around a little bit, or whether you want to be more static. And then eventually at some point, bringing your knees towards the floor. And we're going to come all the way down onto your front. So we're going to come down into the Sphinx posture, bringing the elbows and the forearms to the floor and extending the legs back behind you. You can have a moment in a plank, in a forearm plank, if that feels like something is possible. Then you can bring the front of the hips down to the floor, pointing your toes back behind you and thinking about lifting the center of the chest, so as if you're pulling yourself forwards through your hands. So looking for that sense of lifting through the spine rather than kind of compressing and sinking back into the lower back, a sense of lifting out of the lower back. And that would involve pressing into the mat with your hands and your forearms and your legs and your feet. Extending the chest forwards, engaging the abdominal muscles. And once you've got everything engaged, tops of the legs, forearms, hands, abdominal muscles, then see if you can relax your buttocks. Is that possible? Takes a bit of coordination. Take another couple of deep breaths there. And then from there, we're going to come all the way down to the mat. So reaching your arms forwards, you can bring your forehead down onto the mat. You can rock your hips a little bit from side to side. And we're going to take a few deep breaths and breathe into the belly. So as you breathe into your belly expands like a balloon. But what actually happens, because you're against the floor, is your lower back will rise up and away from the floor, giving a gentle stretch for your lower back. And then as you exhale, releasing. So you want to feel that as you're breathing, there is physical movement in your lower back and probably your hips as well. And then from there, as you inhale, you can lift your head looking forward, bringing your hands back to your shoulders and pushing into the hands to lift back up to your all fours position. We're going to come into a seated position now. So any which way, you can take your feet to one side, gently sit your bottom down, being very careful of your knees as you bring your legs out in front. So we'll take our seated twist. Today we'll bring the right leg in towards you And you can, if you choose to, take that right foot to the outside of the left leg. From there, wrapping your left arm around that right leg. Roll your right shoulder, sorry, back and down a few times. And then we're going to get the whole arm involved and take the whole of that right arm back a few times. Easing your way into that twist. And then you can take the right arm back behind you, finding the floor behind you. And once you're there, you can turn your head to look back over the right shoulder. So keeping the left foot alive, alert, and awake. Doesn't have to be tense, but just don't let it fall asleep and fall out to the side. So the toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. Maybe a little lift in the arch of that left foot. If this is too much on your hip and your lower back, you can always bring that right foot over so it's on the inside of your left leg. It's your practice, your choice, your posture. A few deep breaths there and experiencing the breath as physical movement inside the body. So the inhale, the lungs expand, there's a sense of lifting up through the spine, maybe a lengthening in the back of the neck slightly. And as you exhale, a kind of, as the lungs contract, there might be a little bit more twist. Or you might find that you move out of that twist a little bit. You might find that you kind of sink down in the spine a little bit. As long as you inhale, there's that lift again. So although it might look static from the outside, from the inside there is plenty of movement happening. There is plenty of prana being moved around the body. And then from there you can turn your head so that you're looking forwards. We're going to release the arms and release that right leg as well. Just rolling the feet from side to side to release that hip a little bit. And then going the other way, so we can bring the left leg in towards you. So folding in that left leg, taking that left foot to the outside of the right knee. That's optional. It's optional. So if it doesn't work for you, if you find the foot isn't flat on the floor, but it's kind of rolling onto the little toe side and the big toe is not in contact with the floor when it's over there, then bring it to the inside. So wrap your right arm around that left leg, might just be a hand on the knee, might be the whole arm around the leg. And we're going to start by circling that left shoulder back and down. So already your upper back, and the back of the ribs is moving into and out of this twist. And then we're going to do full arm circles. Full arm circles. And then you can find the floor behind you with that left hand, either fingertips or palm of the hand. And once you're there and you feel fairly comfortable, if you need to readjust, you can always readjust. Otherwise, turning your head to look back over that left shoulder. And observing your breath. So from there, you can turn your head so that you're looking forwards again. And you can release the arms. Release that left leg out next to the right leg. Roll your feet from side to side. And you can lay yourself down on your back with your knees up and your feet flat to the floor again. So lying down with your knees up and your feet flat to the floor. We're going to take one more final twist here. So we'll take the arms out to either side. We'll have the feet about hip width apart. And we're going to start to drop the left leg down towards the left side. So the right knee is still kind of up towards the ceiling and the left knee is dropping down towards that left side. The right leg is probably going to want to follow it. So it's probably going to want to follow on. We can bring that right foot on top of the left foot. And then as far as that right knee is going to go, it might go all the way to the left knee. It might go halfway. It might be still pointing up towards the ceiling. Wherever you happen to be with this, you can look up towards the ceiling or you can look back towards your right hand. If you can reach your left hand across to the outside of that right leg, then that's an option. And again, as with all of these postures in yoga, the thing is about yoga is there are so many different variations of every single posture now that every single yoga teacher is going to tell you what's right. But you know what? Essentially, the truth is that everything is right. Whether you've got your knee to your left, your right knee to your left foot, or you've got your feet on top of each other, they're two different postures or somewhere in between. It's all good. If it feels good, if it feels like you're getting a nice twist and it's comfortable for you, then that is what's right. That is your correct posture. There's so many different ways to move the body, you know, and there's so many different disciplines. Someone in a Pilates class will tell you something completely different and it will feel good. And someone in a what do they call it, somatic movement class will tell you something different again and it will feel great. So we're going to, if you're not there already, look up towards the ceiling and we're going to move one leg at a time. This is my only instruction, is one leg at a time. So the right leg is going to lift up and then the left leg is going to lift up. So easing your way out of this twist, nice and carefully. And I'm starting with my feet hip width apart, the soles of the feet flat to the floor, and the right knee is going to start to roll over to that right side. The left leg is probably going to follow it at some point. You might want to bring your foot a bit closer to the right foot, maybe even resting it on top of that right foot, or you might want to keep your feet kind of apart. You can turn your head to look over your left shoulder, away from your legs, or you can keep looking up towards the ceiling. You might find that your right hand can reach across to the outside of that left leg, or you might not. So finding your comfortable twist, whatever that might be. And then again, we'll bring the head back to center. So you're looking up towards the ceiling if you're not there already. And then left leg first, lifting up and away from the right leg. And then the right leg is going to want to follow as the back of the pelvis touches down to the floor. So you can just roll your legs a little bit from side to side. And then we're going to get comfortable for our relaxation. So if you're happy to just flat yourself out along the floor, Is that English? I don't know. You can just have your legs straight out along the floor, your arms down by your sides. You want the toes turned out to the sides and the palms of the hands rolled open towards the ceiling. Otherwise, you can have your hands resting lightly on your lower abdomen if that's more comfortable for you. If this is not comfortable for your hamstrings or for your lower back, then you're going to want to bend your knees, have your feet flat on the floor, and possibly lean your knees in towards each other so that your knees are touching. You might prefer to do this with a couple of cushions, pillows, or a yoga bolster underneath the backs of the knees or the backs of the thighs, so that you've got some support for that bend in the knees. If you've got support underneath the backs of the thighs, then you might want to have your knees away from each other and your heels together. However you are in your relaxation, in your Shavasana posture, the most important thing is that you can rest comfortably. You can rest your shoulders, your neck and your head is comfortable. You can rest your lower back and your hips are comfortable. So as long as you're comfortable and you're able to rest, then you're in your correct posture. And once you're there and you're settled, again, you might want to jump over a pair of socks or a blanket at this stage as well, or a cat or a dog. So once you're there, just allowing the body to settle into stillness. So there's a lot of movement, not necessarily dynamic movement, but there's a lot of movement in my physical yoga practice, which allows you to experience the difference between movement and stillness at the end. So for those of you who are wondering what's written on my t-shirt, it says Chittas Yogas Chittas Vritti Nirodha, and yoga is the stilling of the turnings of the mind. So everything up to this point is a warm-up for this action of becoming still. In order to become still and become comfortably still, you need to release tensions, aches, pains, all those pops and clicks and things. You need to get all of that out of the way so that you can actually come to this point where you can lie down and you can be comfortable without being bothered by the physical body, without being distracted by sensations in the physical body. So as you settle yourself into stillness, you might find that the body, the mind follows the body and also becomes still, quiet, slows down. Or you might find the opposite is true. Either way, observing for a moment your mind as it is, whether there is a lot going on or whether there is space, whether there is space between the thoughts. Whether there's a lot of different thoughts, whether it's a continuing pattern of 2 or 3 thoughts or 2 or 3 themes that keep recurring and cycling around, just observing the nature. I mean, there is no wrong or right answer. It just is as it is. We are as we are. And the act of observing is what brings stillness. And then observing your breath. So observing all of the details
of your incoming and outgoing breath, noticing the temperature change of the breath. So the breath that comes in, a little bit cooler, the breath that goes out, a little bit warmer. Noticing the movement of the hairs inside the nostrils and the hairs on the upper lip. And then taking all of that awareness to a point in the center of the forehead, as if there's a little shining light right in the center of the forehead. And from the center of the forehead, taking that awareness, that little light of conscious awareness from the center of the forehead to the base of the throat, the little dip between the collarbones. And from there into the left shoulder, down the left arm to the elbow and the wrist. Back of the hand and the palm of the hand. And the very tip of the left hand thumb and the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger and the little finger of the left hand. Coming back up through the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder to the base of the throat again, that little dip between the collarbones and over into the right shoulder. And all the way down that right arm to the elbow and the wrist, the back of the hand and the palm of the right hand. The very tip of the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger, ring finger and the little finger. Then back up through the wrist, the elbow and the right shoulder to the base of the throat again, that little dip between the collarbones, and from there down to the center of the chest. And over into the left side of the chest, to the left lung. The right side of the chest and the right lung. And then back to the center of the chest, and from the center of the chest, taking that awareness down to the belly button, the navel. From the belly button down to the center of the pelvic floor, the perineum. And into the left hip. Down that left leg to the knee and the ankle. The top of the foot and the sole of the foot. Big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe and the little toe of the left foot. And coming back up through the ankle, the knee and the hip to the perineum or the center of the pelvic floor. And to the right hip. Moving down that right leg from the hip to the knee. And from the knee to the ankle. The top of the foot. And the sole of the right foot. Big toe. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. And the little toe of the right foot. Coming back up through the ankle, the knee, and the hip to the center of the pelvic floor, and then up and back from there to the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, the lower spine and the tail. And imagining the bones becoming soft and visualizing a bit of space opening up between all of the bones in the back of the pelvis and the lower spine. And with that softness and that spaciousness just settling into the lower spine. And then traveling up through each of the vertebrae, through the lower back, the mid-back, and the upper back, between the shoulder blades, and up through the back of the neck until you reach the top of the spine, and where the top of the spine meets the base of the skull, that softness and that spaciousness settling into the base of the skull. And from the base of the skull back through to the center of the forehead again. And from the center of the forehead, dropping that awareness down into the center of the chest. And consciously resting your awareness in that space in the center of the chest. So you can start to notice your breath again, become a bit more aware of your breath coming in and going out. And as that breath comes in and goes out, perhaps taking control of that breath again, making it a little bit longer, a little bit deeper. Becoming a little bit more conscious of every breath coming and every breath going. And when you're ready to, in your own time, you can start to make some small movements just with your fingers, your toes.
Maybe rolling your head from side to side, maybe just moving your tongue around the inside of the mouth. And eventually, possibly taking your arms up over your head and having a bit of a stretch. And bringing your knees towards your chest and rolling from side to side. Again, eventually rolling onto one side or the other and resting there, just resting there until you're ready to come back up into a seated position.